Daf Samach Aleph Amud Aleph will begin Samach Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. We learned previously, we had a machlokes between Yeshua ben Levi and Rav Idi. We had a machlokes if we say the following. If a person is measuring his tchum, and his tchum encompasses the whole city, the 2,000 amas encompasses the whole city, the city is included in the 2,000 amas. Do we consider the city to be just in dalet amas, as if he was shavis in the city? Or do we say no, the length of the city is subtracted from the Alpayim Amma? Now, Rav Yeshua ben Levi said as follows. He said that if you have your shvisa, you're measuring your Alpayim Amma. So if you put your Eruv and you're measuring your Alpayim Amma as follows. This is the city. You have your Eruv here. You're measuring the Alpayim Amma. He says if your Alpayim Amma, the whole city is within the Alpayim Amma, you consider this to be dalet amas. Then, so for instance, if this is 500 amas, then you can go another 496 amas because we consider this to be only dalet amas. Now, if you measure, however, and the tchum ends up in the city, it doesn't encompass the whole city, then you have to measure this city. It's not considered dalet amas. And for instance, if this is 300 amas, then that 300 amas is part of your Alpayim. You don't measure this. So if the tchum, the Alpayim Amma ends here, that's where your tchum ends. If it encompasses the whole city, then you consider this dalet amas. So if this is 500 amas, then you have another 496 amas, because we don't consider this to be 500 amas. We consider it to be only dalet amas. That's what Yeshua ben Levi said. Rav Idi said it's divrei nevios. It doesn't make a difference if the city is all included in the Alpayim Amma, if the Alpayim encompass the whole city or only part of the city. You have to measure the length of the city, and that is subtracted from your Alpayim Ammas. Amarava Tarvayo Tanai. Both of these halachas of Yeshua ben Levi we learned in a Mishnah. We learned in a Mishnah, the residents of a small city can travel and walk through a whole small city. And residents of a large city, if they're side by side, very close to each other, a large city and a small city, the residents of the large one can travel through and walk through the whole small city. But the opposite is not the case. The Anshe Ir Katana, the residents of the small city, cannot travel through the entire large city. My time, what's the difference between them? What's the reason? It must be, the difference is that one, the measurement, the Alpayim Amma encompasses the whole city, and the other one, it doesn't. So for instance, if we have a large city, a small city, they're close to each other. Now, when the large city measures its Alpayim Amma, the entire small city is included in it. When the small city measures its Alpayim Amma, it does not encompass the whole large city. So since it doesn't encompass the whole large city, they can only walk to where their Alpayim Amma ends. They can't go past it. So therefore, they can't travel through the whole city. They can only travel up to where their Alpayim Amma ends. But the large city, when they measure their Alpayim Amma, so if their Alpayim Amma, the entire small city is included in it, therefore they can walk through the entire small city. Now, Rashi explains, if it simply is the way it's stated, that their Alpayim Amma encompasses the whole city, well, of course, they can walk through the whole city. They have Alpayim Amma, and they can walk to the end of their Alpayim Amma. It must be, therefore, what it means to say is, they can walk through the whole small city, and the whole small city does not reduce their Alpayim Amma. It's only considered like dalet amas, and therefore they can walk through the whole small city without reducing their Alpayim Amma, without taking away, subtracting the length of the city from their Alpayim Amma. It's only considered like dalet amas, and therefore, in fact, they can even go beyond. So, don't we see this from this Mishnah? So, we see this clearly, that Rav Yeshua ben Levi, his halachas from this Mishnah. Rabbi Yidi, how does he learn it? Because he disagrees with this chiluk. He says, Anshe Tani. He learns not that the large one can go and walk through the whole small one, and the small one cannot travel through the whole large one. No, he learns that in both cases, the large one can travel through the whole small one, and the small one can travel through the whole large one. How is that so? He learns the case is talking about when the people over here, if there happens to be a resident in the city, he put his Eruv in the city, then this is all considered for him to be Dalet Amos, because this is where his Malkum Shvis is. And if the resident of this city puts their Eruv over here, make their Shvisa here, they have this whole city, because this is their Malkum Shvisa, and they have Alpai Mama from here. He learns it not by measuring it. He's saying the chiddush is that even if it's a resident from a different city, but if they make their Eruv in another city, then their new place of residence is considered to be where they made the Eruv, and they have Alpai Mama from that other city, and that whole city is considered for them to be Dalet Amos. But it's not talking for the case where you measure and it reaches the city, either the whole or part of the city. Veloy, fragt Gemara, were these cases of measuring not mentioned in the Mishnah? Vatanan, we learned in that Mishnah, the person who measures, he's measuring his chum. So when he measures, he has Alpaim Amma from the place of his Eruv, or the place of his dwelling place. And Shafilu Saif Midosa Kala B'Ma'ara, even if the Alpaim Amma ends up in a cave, then that's where it ends, and it ends in the middle of the cave. So you see over here, so what is the Rishuman Levi, what's his real chiddush? You see over here that if the Alpaim Amma ends in the middle of a cave, that's where it stops. Similarly, if it ends in the middle of a city, that's where it ends. So you see clearly that if it doesn't encompass the whole city, then the city is not considered like Dalet Amos. Gemara says, what Rav Ben Levi has to tell us is that if it does encompass the whole city, then the whole city is only considered like Dalet Amos. That is not learned in that Mishnah. Rav Ben Levi's chiddush is that if it does encompass the whole city, that this whole city is only considered like Dalet Amos, and he can go, therefore, even further than that. So that is his chiddush. Amar Rav Nachman, mandatane anshe lo mishtavish, umandatane ein anshe lo mishtavish. Both versions could be correct. That the version that learns that anshe, that the residents of the small city could walk through the entire large city, the large city through the entire small, the small could walk through the entire large. It's not incorrect. And the one that says Ein Anshe, that the residents of a small city cannot walk through the whole large city, it's also not a mistake. Mandatane Anshe Loi Mishtavish, that you could, the Michael Benoisen, like we said before, it's talking not where he's measuring, it's when he puts his Eruv in the other city, puts his Eruv in the city, then this is the Malkum Shvisa, he has his whole city, and Alpai Mama in each direction. Umandatani Ein Anshe Lo Mishtavish, and also the one who learns Ein Anshe, that the people in the small city cannot travel through the large city, it's also not a mistake. The Maikin La B'Maidit, he that's signed the case, he says the case is talking where he measures. So therefore, if he's making a measurement from the small city to the large city, and if it ends up in the large city, it doesn't encompass the whole large city, then they cannot travel through the whole city. And we say that part of the Mishnah is missing, some missing words, and it should be read as follows. And the people in the large city can travel through the whole small city. But the people of the small city cannot travel through the entire large city. When he's measuring, and therefore the measurement, if it doesn't encompass the whole large city, if measurement ends the 2,000 amas somewhere in the city, then he cannot travel the whole city. But if a person was in a large city, and he placed his Erev, he made his shvisa, he placed his Erev in the small city, or alternatively, if it is an Ir Katana, then wherever he places the Erev, that's considered as Malkum Shvisa, and therefore the whole city is considered for him as Dalet Amas, and he can go beyond it, 2,000 Amas in each direction. Amar Yosef, Amar Rami Barav, Amar Huna. If you have a city that is on the edge of a ravine, so it's like at a cliff, there's a cliff at the edge of it. If it has a wall of 4 amas, so there's a protective wall, like a railing, then if it has it in front of the entire length of the city, then it's considered a city. So if it has it's sitting on there's the edge of a ravine or a cliff. So if they have a small wall that runs along the entire edge of the city, so it runs along the entire edge, it has this wall here, so that will prevent the people from falling off. So it will prevent the residents of the city. Let's assume the city is like this. So it has this wall of Arba Amas. It has a height of Arba. Then it protects them and they won't fall off. Then it's considered to be a city because it has a protection. Then we consider it to be a city. So if it has this Daka Arba in front, then Moeded Misfas Hanach. Then we measure the Alpaim Amma from the edge of the Nachal, because like in any city, the entire city is considered like Dalet Amas, and the Alpaim Amas is measured from beyond the city. But Vimlav, if it doesn't have this protective fence, then it's considered to be like a dangerous area. It's not considered to be a yishuv, a city, a dwelling. And then each house is considered to be separate. And each house has to measure its Alpaim Amma from its own house. So if you have a house over here, you can't measure the Alpaim Amma from here. It has to be measured, each house individually. So therefore, only from the door of each house. You taught us the din of Daka of 4 amas. So normally when we speak of a Daka, when we speak it in other contexts, we don't speak of it of Dalet Amas. We speak of it of Dalet Tvachim. Why over here is it different that it's 4 amas? Over there, it's not to protect. It's not, people aren't afraid of using their residences. Therefore, it's only a separation. It only has to be as a heker. It's to divide an area that, to say, treat it separate, let's say from a merpeses to a chotzer, to make a division that we see that it's a separate area. But over here, it's for a purpose to protect them because they're afraid, because they might fall off the cliff. So it has to serve the purpose of protecting them, of guarding them. So that's why you need the height of Dalet Amas. Amar of Yosef Minah. Where do I learn this from? We learn in the Brisa, Hitler, Rebbe, Sheyu, B'nei Geder, Yordam Chamsa. His Rebbe allowed, he was matir the people of Geder to go down to Chamsan, and B'nei Chamsan oilin Geder. But the people of Chamsan cannot go up to the city of Geder. So the cities of Chamsan and Geder were on an incline. One city was higher up, Geder was higher up, and Chamsan was lower down. So we say that the people on the higher up city, on Geder, they can go and travel to Chamsan, but not vice versa. So why is that so? So it must be because the city is on a slope. The cities are built on a slope. It must be that Geder had a Daka, and therefore it had a protection. It had the fence protecting it. So therefore, this was considered to be a secure city. It was considered to be secure. Therefore, the people dwelling here, that's considered to be a yishuv, and is considered all to be dalet amas. So therefore, you can measure the alpayim amma from the edge of the city. Well, if you measure it from the edge of the city, it will encompass the whole Khamsan, and therefore they can go and travel through the whole city. But Khamsan did not have a Daka, so it's considered to be not a secure place, not a yeshiva dwelling, and therefore each house has to be measured separately. Therefore, the houses which are down here are more than Alpayim Amma from Getter, so they can not travel up to here because you have to measure each house separately. You can't measure it from the edge of the city because it's not considered to be a yishuv because it didn't have the daka. So you see this halacha from this brisa. So my time alam mishum dahani avud daka must be because the people of Getter made the daka, and vahani lo avud daka, and Khamsan did not make a daka. Kiyasa Rav Dimi Omar, he said no, it's not a raya. Because he said it was for completely different reasons. He said it was for practical reasons, for safety considerations. He said because the people of Getter used to fight and hurt and physically put the people in Khamsan in sakana. So therefore, umay hitter. What does it mean hitter? He said hiskin. He made a takana that. Even though it was mutter, it's not a question of a tchum. It's not a tchum issue. It's not in terms of the Hilchah Shabbos. Even though la halacha they were mutter to go there, he made a takana that not that he was mater. He was hiskin. He made a takana that they were not allowed. The people of Khamsan were not allowed to go into Getter. He allowed the people of Getter to go into Khamsan, but he did not allow the people of Khamsan to go into Getter. So he made the takana to allow, he wasn't matter per se because it was mutter regardless because they were within the tchum. It's not a tchum issue. He allowed them to continue going from Getter to Khamsan, but he did not allow the people from Khamsan to go together because it was a sakana. Because if they went there, they'd be in sakanas defashas. So, Frag the Gemara, Umayshna Shabbos. Well, if it's a question of sakana and it's not a question of Hilchos Shabbos, so he should have answered them from going there throughout the whole week. Why is it Dafka Shabbos? Umayshna Shabbos because on Shabbos they used to drink and therefore their behavior was uncontrolled, and that's where there was a sakana. So the sakana was Dafka on Shabbos. So, well, if you let the people of Getter go to Khamsan, they'll interact, and they'll also be in a sakana. Why did he only answer the people from Khamsan to go to Getter? Why not the other way as well? Gemara answers, a dog outside of its own town, 7 years it won't bark. Meaning, the people of Getter in their own city, when they were in the Shabbos and they were feeling very lightheaded and comfortable, then they were very brazen, and they were attacking. They used to attack the people of Khamsan. If they were strangers and going to the city of Khamsan, they're not at home, then they would not feel that brazen, and it wouldn't be a sakana. Well, why don't you say that the people of Khamsan will attack the people of Getter? If the residents of Getter can come into Khamsan, why don't you say that the residents of Khamsan will attack them? They're in their own city. That even though the people of Getter, if they would go into Khamsan, they were the visitors. And even though the people of Khamsan, they were the residents, but they would not be so brave to attack them. The people of Getter were, by nature, they were more antagonistic, more brazen, and they were more aggressive. The people of Khamsan were not, so therefore there wasn't a sakana for the people of Getter to go to Khamsan, but there was a sakana for the people of Khamsan to go to Getter. So that's why he learns that it has really nothing to do with the Hilchos Shabbos, Hilchos Tchumim. Rav Safra is giving a different explanation. He says, he says, Khamsan was a city that was shaped like a bow. So he says that the city was shaped like a bow, where you had more than 2,000 amas on each end, meaning more than 4,000 amas from one end of the bow to the other. The 2,000 amas from each end did not overlap each other. So therefore, you can't measure, when you measure the Alpine Amma, for the people on this edge of the town, you cannot measure the Alpine Amma from here. It has to be measured from here. So if one is traveling from here to here, since there's more than 4,000 Ammas from one end to the other, then you cannot measure for the people here to look at it like it's an imaginary line across and measure from here. You have to measure from here. Therefore, he says, is as follows. The people of Geder, they didn't have a bow-shaped city. The people of Khamsan did. Now, if you measure, when you're measuring across, so the people of Geder, you can measure from the edge of the town, because this was all a rectangle or a square. So therefore, this can be measured from the edge of the town. When they measure the edge of the town, the Alpine Amma, it spans across and comes to, and encompasses the entire back area of Khamsan. So therefore, they can go through the whole city of Khamsan. However, the people over here, if you measure from the back of Khamsan, it doesn't span Geder, since they have to measure from the deepest part of the bow, this edge of the town, the people from here. It doesn't span Geder, and therefore they cannot go to the whole city of Geder. Rav Dimi bar Achinana Amar, it says similar to what we learned before, Anshi Ir Gedol, Anshi Ketana. It was simply a case of a big city and a small city, like we learned before, and therefore you have the big city and the small city, and therefore we'll say that this over here, they will span, and the Alpine Amma spans the whole depth of Khamsan, but Khamsan, since Geder is a big city, Khamsan does not span the city of Geder, and therefore they can walk and travel throughout the whole city. Geder can travel through Khamsan. Khamsan cannot travel through Geder. Rav Kahana Masechet, and that was a version that Rav Kahana taught, and he taught it that these were the Mandomars, so that Rav Safra said it was Irki Keshes, and Rav Dim Bar Chinana says it was a Gedoyel like Getana. But Rav Yomi Masechet, he learned it the following way. Rav Safra Rav Dimi Bar Chinana, he learned Rav Sivra, he was not sure who said what, so therefore he said Chad Amar Ir Asuike Keshes Have, Chad Amar Ir Chad Amar Anshi Ir Ketana, Anshi Ir Gedoyla Have, and one of them said it was a big and small city. One of them said it was a city shaped like a bow, and the other one said it was a big and small city, but he did not know exactly who said what, so he could not attribute the particular case to the particular Mandomar.